Still on the new tax law, Airpeace CEO Onyema says Nigeria's domestic aviation sector faces a looming crisis as new tax laws threaten to push ticket prices beyond 1 million naira. He says multiple taxes and levies mean airlines retain only a fraction of ticket revenues, making operations increasingly unsustainable. Onyema highlighted that the new law reintroduces VAT on aircraft and spare parts, reversing the 2020 concessions that eased industry costs. The CEO warned that without urgent intervention, airlines could collapse within months, affecting passengers, banks, and the wider economy. He urged government authorities to consider the sector's critical role in economic growth and avoid policies that could cripple Nigerian carriers. Aviation expert and publisher, CEO Aviators Africa, Tony Ukachukwu, joins us now to examine the likely impact of the new tax laws on the aviation sector. You're welcome, Tony.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so as we know, the aviation sector in Nigeria has been struggling. We're talking about FX challenges, the high cost of fuel, and now we're looking at VAT on airlines. We're talking about spare parts. Now, how do you think this is going to affect airlines moving forward?
So basically, the challenges that the aviation sector has been facing has been for the longest time, and we've kind of been talking about same issues over and over again. Of course, the import of spares for aircraft operators, that taking off the taxes was a reprieve, but now they're saying they're going to bring it back. So a whole lot of challenges is bedeviling the sector, from FX to the policy regulations to taxes to levies to infrastructural deficits. There's a whole lot. But again, I think with the minister that just came in, I'm talking about Festus Keyamo, taking it one bite at a time, I think we're seeing some reprieve, but the whole lot needs to be done.
Now, how realistic is the claim that domestic airfares could rise beyond 1 million naira under the new tax regime? Would you say that Onyema is spot on with his prediction, or is this an over-exaggeration of the figure?
I think that's an exaggeration. There's no way domestic air tickets could rise up to 1 million naira. At the present rate where it is, less than 10% of the population fly by air. So you're talking about, let's say, just 20 million people fly by air. And then you're saying if it goes to 1 million, that means the whole air transport will be grounded, because how many people have disposable incomes of 1 million naira for air transport? So I think that's an exaggeration. But I think I understand this point, trying to move that if the new tax law comes into effect, it will adversely affect the airline operators. That's understandable. But saying it's going to get up to 1 million naira, I think that's an exaggeration.
All right. So do these new taxes risk pushing Nigerian airlines towards financial collapse, or are operators overstating the threat? Already, like I said earlier on, the sector is struggling. There are situations where aircrafts are now merging in different states. And not only that, there are situations where they're flying almost empty at this point.
I'll make a case for the airline operators. They're struggling. The operating environment is very challenging, I must say, very, very challenging. They're facing headwinds as they operate. However, I think that the new tax law will further push them to the precipice, because where we are right now is that the multiple taxation and levies that airlines are facing is already impeding on their operations, where right now taxes and levies can amount to up to 65% of the operational cost. So when you are at that level, you kind of will more struggle. So I think there should be some reconsideration for the airline operators, because again, if the Nigerian government understand the impact of the aviation sector to the general economy, they will do well to give it all the necessary support it needs, especially going to the airline operators. And not to say that the airline operators don't have their own issues, but we're saying for them to have sustainable flight operations in Nigeria, there must be support from government coming from area of multiple taxation, levies, and policy reforms.
All right, so VAT that was initially removed on aircraft and spare parts is now coming back. Now, how significant is the reintroduction of VAT on these aspects of operating costs for aviation sectors?
First of all, I want to blame the airline operators of Nigeria because this tax issue didn't just, trump upon them, just like that. It's been oncoming. I would have thought that as an association, they would have kind of formed a formidable front and state their case to government or the policymakers, as to why they should be exempted. Not crying foul at the last minute, saying they're hoping that the president in his good office, which is good office, to kind of exempt the aviation. I think is crying when the head is off already. But having said that, we are here now. I'm hoping that there will be some intervention. I expect the airline operators of Nigeria to have a formidable front and state their case, which I think is credible, by the way, because our sector is a socioeconomic catalyzer, which catalyzes every other sector. If the aviation sector collapses, the economy is going to collapse. So having that thinking at the back of our minds, we must do everything we can to make sure that the airline operators survive and their operations are sustainable.
Well, they say that the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, but today is not too late. But would you say that at this point, looking at when the new laws are going to be fully implemented, which is January 1st, it's too late for the aviation sector to make a turnaround? And what process would you think they need to follow in order to make this a reality for them, in order to sustain their own businesses as well as the aviation sector?
So I think it's going to hit them hard coming to January 1st when it comes into full implementation. Just like Alan has predicted, they want to absorb the shock by kind of hiking the fares in air tickets. That will be the first, shock absorber for them because it's going to hit them hard. But after that, I expect that, all parties should come to a round table to say, this is how this will negatively impact the sector. I'm talking about airline operators of Nigeria, who are the ones directly bearing the brunt right now, and kind of interface with government to say there should be something we can do to find a middle ground to make sure that airlines survive. Because if they collapse, then it's going to affect adversely, on the economy. So I think the shock absorber will be, it affects them upon implementation. They are going to hike fares to survive, the impact. And then, of course, they go into some kind of discussion with government to see how we can have a win-win.
All right, that was Tony Ukachukwu. He's an aviation expert, and he's taking a look at the new tax laws and the effects on Nigeria's aviation sector, which is already struggling. Thank you very much, Tony.